Welcome, everyone, to session number 5. And this session is going to be with Sara Cronan, and we are talking about embracing your inner addict, how self-love heals. One of my favorites, self-love, yes. And let me tell you a little bit about Sara. Sara believes each person has a unique song that emanates from their heart. This heart song changes in mood and style depending on the emotional, mental, and spiritual state of the individual. But the core of the melody is the same. She can harmonize with and help shift heart songs energetically through music and sound, spiritual consultation, tarot guidance, and distance energy work she refers to as a distance dance party. She also offers holistic piano, voice, and guitar lessons to children and adults at Heart Song Healing Music Studio located in Surfside Beach, South Carolina. Her goal is to help her students to connect with and express their souls through music. She has been shifting hearts as a music teacher since 2000. And you can find out more about her on our website. So, Sara, oh my God, all that stuff. It was beautiful. I love how you are talking about heart song, healing through sound, and you have your own special journey that you are going to walk us through today on how you have used self-love to heal, you have used sound to heal. So tell us a little bit about this journey.
Thanks so much for that introduction. I'm really excited to be here. And I will say this is one of my first times speaking publicly about my addiction. I say that. I did write about it in the multi-author book that I am publishing, Producer Rice Unpublished, Activating the Divine Human, Embracing Both Your Shadow and Your Light. So if you want more details on my personal journey, and there's 11 other beautiful healing stories in there, please check that out. So I'll just give a little bit of a background first and just say, I started using drugs, mostly alcohol, marijuana, and then kind of anything else that came along, including LSD, cocaine, all that stuff, when I was about 15. And it is the thing that really stuck with me was opiates. So heroin, Oxycontin, Percocet, all that kind of stuff. And I continued using it all the way until August 2021. And the last decade of that drug use, although maybe more like the last 15 years, were an incredible journey and challenge. And I nearly lost my life. And that sort of thing is, you have a choice. There's that moment where you say, wow, this really is my rock bottom. And the only way out of that, right, going lower means you're not going to be here anymore. And I want to share this story with people and my experiences about how I got out of that, because I remember how lonely it is and how alone you feel. So if you're listening to this right now, and if you're here looking for some answers, the best thing is the answer is in your own heart and learning to connect to yourself. And you really are your own medicine. But we get kind of all tangled up in all of the guilt and the shame and the isolation. And we don't see a way out. So
How do you feel? Because I think for a lot of people, when they're in that state, there is a notion that, first of all, it's going to be hard. The support structure, because I think you've done it even without the group settings for like getting your going through group meetings and things like that. And so I want to hear from you what you see the important part of your journey that has been different from other people, and how you truly, because I've seen it, you truly went from here to this place. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't a traditional way of coming out either. So I want to talk about that because I think that's what sets your journey apart, and sort of I feel has empowered you, that you know in your heart you're not going to go back to using anymore.
I love that. Yeah. It was definitely just a moment, and it was a really profound shift in my heart. Um, and okay, so you are correct. I did not do rehab. I did not do NA or AA or anything like that. Um, and I am actually able to use now opiates as actual painkillers. I had a tooth extraction that was really bad after I quit, and I was able to have the codeine to stop the pain, but I let go of enough of the fear. Like there wasn't this fear surrounding what it means if I'm taking this. And I feel like that actually is part of the issue with some of these support groups out there. And they're well-meaning and they help a lot of people. I know a lot of people that are able to stay sober in that situation. But one of my least favorite phrases I hear all the time in those settings from other people, through other people, is you will never be a recovered addict. You will always be an addict. And you just have to live with the fact that this will always be a lifelong struggle. I call bullshit. That is the thing that drives me bananas. So here's the thing. Okay. So I will say for me, one of the things that was my light through all of that dark period as I was struggling with my addiction is kind of two things. One, I personally had talked to myself as a teenager and essentially said, I'd made a pact with myself back then. We can do anything we want. We can try anything we want. We will not kill ourselves. We're not going to kill ourselves. Anything else is fine, any other experience, but we cannot die. And so I will say, I know I was a particularly meticulous addict too. I actually researched how many milligrams I was going to be able to do without killing myself physically. And I did my best, I think, to exert a lot of control around it, as opposed to, because I knew that's what would happen if I did not. I would just disappear into it and then I would die. And I had seen that happen to other people around me in that world that I was buying drugs from, and they didn't make it. And that was probably actually when I was knocking on my dealer's door and feeling horrible in my heart and panicky about the fact that I was there in the first place. I told Andy, my husband, that I had quit again for like the fourth time, but my mom was sick and I was struggling, and that was my go-to because I didn't have another comfort system. And when I discovered that this guy that I was mad at not being home, turned out it was because he was laying dead on the floor inside and he had OD'd. That was sort of the beginning of, wow, this is like right in my face and I need to think about it. I continued to do the drugs because, again, I didn't have another coping mechanism. And I will say that right there is the thing we have to find in our lives, is awareness about what the drugs are doing. So for myself, I was feeling a need to feel, actually to not feel, right? You're numbing yourself. So not just from the world, although the world felt scary and unsafe and dangerous, but also from myself. I was trying to turn off my brain, trying to turn off my heart, trying to turn off my body, and to do the things that I thought I needed to do in society. So I have to make money, I have to work. And that was my primary drive, was I have to do these things because otherwise I totally am worthless. And I think one of the more difficult things for people struggling with addiction are those who maybe don't have either a job or they don't have something that takes their focus away from the drugs. And I think that is one thing right there that actually separates my journey from a lot of people. I was blessed to have followed my heart enough to be teaching music. And that I kind of felt like, honestly, I didn't have anything else I could do. I didn't feel like I had any other skills except for music anyway. And so I kind of got pigeonholed into doing it, not because I was like, yes, I'm excited, I want to be a teacher. It was, okay, I can do music and I guess I can help others do it. Sure. So that's what I was doing. But I got very lucky. It was exactly what I should have been doing. Like, it's what I'm built for. I'm an excellent teacher and I adore it. So finding that thing, what is your heart always enjoyed? Even if it doesn't seem like a viable career, what can you find in your life? And even if that's, I'm going to go listen to music right now, or I'm going to even play chess, like finding ways, whatever that thing is for you. I'm going to go walk in nature. I'm going to call my best friend and cry on the phone, which I did a whole lot of it during this process as I was transitioning into being ready to switch, because it is a process. So even though my quitting was immediate, there was this huge 6-month process from that death to the moment that I quit. And one of the precipitators was my husband finding out I'd started drugs again and was going to divorce me. And it was that was what clicked my heart. It was, wow, I can't lose that thing. And even having that as a support system, someone who saw me, saw my struggle, and was totally impacted by my struggle, who stuck with me because he knew my heart better than I did. And even though I had many times where I would just lash out in a tornado of fists, because not because I wanted to be alone, but because I did not believe that I deserved anything. I did not deserve any goodness in my life because of all these choices I was making. Stealing money, lying to my clients about why I wasn't there, just being physically ill, trying to quit, or I just couldn't get any that day. Like, there's a lot in there. And the thing is, once my heart switched and I started seeing what I was worth, and I started, instead of fighting the parts of myself that were asking for comfort, because whether it's drugs, whether it's shopping, whether it's sex, whether it's social media, whether it's exercise, whatever addiction a person has, it is always a symptom of a part of you seeking comfort. And the hold is so strong because you don't really know what else to do with that. So I'd like to encourage you that if there is something in your life that you are fighting with, struggling with, that you stop struggling and that you stop fighting and that you sit with it and say, I see you. Okay, I see you. And as you do that, as you practice that, then you are able to start having a conversation to say, so what is it that you need from this thing that I know is ruining my life, but I can't seem to stop? Like, what is it you need? And embracing it and saying, I hear you. I see you. You are mine. And be the mom to that part of you, or the dad, or the grandma, or whatever, right? Be that higher elder, that higher self version for that part of you. And allow yourself to say, it's okay that I'm not perfect. And it's okay that I have all these feelings that I don't know what to do with. And it's okay if I don't even know half the time what I'm feeling. And especially if you've been numbing things for a long time, right? I mean, you don't know. I had zero idea. In fact, I still get surprised sometimes where I'll be like, wait, what is this feeling? Oh my God, I'm really angry right now. And you would think after 2 solid years of being focused on this kind of healing, you would think that I would know myself all the time, but it doesn't work that way. I still am finding things out all the time where I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that was triggering for me. Interesting.
I think the key points for the audience is one thing that you definitely had from the get-go was the fact that you knew you loved life enough that you weren't going to kill yourself. That you knew you were disconnected from your body, your mental, emotional state, and you were looking for comfort. And the point to starting to love yourself was stopping and starting to say, I'm not going to numb myself anymore. I'm not going to always look for the escape and the comfort, and starting to invite all these parts of yourself in and giving them love, giving them hugs, and giving them acceptance and saying, you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. I love you just as you are, and you are enough. And by doing that, getting them all sort of bringing them in, they were able to receive that comfort from you. So they didn't need to seek that comfort in drugs.
Yes. I will say that process again, it took maybe a year. I think I worked with you for many months before I was fully kind of on my current spiritual path. And I will say when I quit, it was much less, I actually didn't realize at that point what was happening. I didn't really know I didn't know how much anger I was carrying. I just knew I was sad and did not feel okay. So as soon as I quit, one of the first things I did was try and get mental help. And so I did end up I found a psychiatrist that I didn't really get along with very well. So I just stopped. COVID hit. And then I was like, huh, that doesn't make sense. Oh, I'm thinking about my grief. COVID hitting was my grief part. Okay. So, but I ended up working with a therapist right after I quit. And that was the first time that I realized how much my adoption and the fact that I was adopted, even though I was 6 days old when it happened, had greatly affected me. And I realized how much anger I was holding at the world, at individual people, at myself. And I was actually, it's funny, this is perfect because the next thing I was going to say is it's the forgiveness of self that I think is probably one of the absolute biggest challenges that I've had. Um, if you have certain kinds of drug use, like I was shooting up drugs. So I have these scars on my hands that I can see every day you wake up. They are there. It's a reminder. And I chose, instead of feeling the shame of those scars over time, I chose to see them as battle scars, as survival scars. These, look at what I've been through, and I am still here and stronger than ever. And that forgiveness is the only reason that I'm really sitting here today in the very happy place that I am. And I will say every once in a while it still comes up, and I'll be reminded of some drug-addled brain decision that I made at some point, and then be like, ooh, oh yeah, I did that. And then, okay, let me bring that in. Let me talk to that. Let's Let's find a way to forgive that part of ourselves. And I think that's really the most important thing.
It is. I love that you brought that up because self-forgiveness, people often is like, oh, forgiveness, they think it's in others that they have to forgive or ask others to forgive them, but the self-forgiveness is part of that self-love that is very important, that leads you, allows you to love yourself more and allows you to see you deserve the love that you're receiving as well. So I'm glad that you touched base on that and the forgiveness. Any other self-love healing tools or practices that you want to share with the audience?
Absolutely. So as we're heading into this time in the new year where everybody is telling you to change, and you're already all pent up about the fact that you have something big in your life that you want to change and can't seem to, is to really just start by when you're having that desire kick in and it's really heavy, take a breath, sit with it, see if you can feel where it's coming from. And then if you need to follow through on it, follow through on it. The thing is, you fighting with yourself about it makes it worse. So for instance, when I was changing some of my food habits, I would still allow myself to have things that I was sort of shaming myself for, but I needed to be aware of what energy was happening with it. So it also meant that my intake was less. And I really believe that same principle applies to drugs, alcohol, food, obviously, that it's not about denying yourself things. It's about the understanding of where something's coming from. And you can feed it a little bit and see if maybe that's enough this time. And maybe not just mindlessly following the old patterns of what you used to do. Just taking that breath before you sit down and do the same exact amount, or eat the entire bag, or whatever it is that you're used to kind of doing, because a lot of our mechanisms are just habits, right? They're just that's why they're hard to break. So just having that moment before indulging in whatever that habit is and making it more of a choice, because you'll find the more that you sit with it, the more you're aware of it, the more you start sometimes saying, well, maybe that doesn't feel good right now. Maybe that's not what I want to do right now. Maybe I'll choose to do something else that makes me feel better. And it's just a process. Another one I want to bring up, which was actually hard for me, was mirror work. And I think this is hard for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. But learning to be able to even look yourself in the face, that took me time. Because not only had I been avoiding mirrors, because I didn't want to see who that person was that, I hated. So taking the moment to start actively, even if it's just a moment, look at yourself in the mirror, look in yourself in your eyes, and just say hello. And start talking to yourself a little bit every day. And then when you feel more comfortable, and if you start saying, I actually think I kind of like what I'm seeing now. And that shift is odd. I mean, I'm not even sure I can explain necessarily for myself, like how that even shifted. But instead of looking at my hand scars in the mirror and hating them, I started shifting that energy of acceptance. Okay, I have them. Okay, I see them. Okay, they're visible. And then that kind of shifts into, well, what an amazing thing I survived. And wow, I'm not going back to that. That's my old self. And then starting to recognize like there's distance in there. And I do think the distance helps. But then starting to say, you know what? I see you. and I love you. And getting to a place where you can start, even if it's only piece part by piece part, starting to say, I like this about myself. One thing a day in a mirror, whatever feels easy. And then try and expand it from there. 2 things in a day. Well, maybe I have 3 things I can say today. And just kind of slowly building a relationship with you. Because ultimately, that's what you're missing. It's just having a good relationship with yourself.
Well, thank you for this great workshop that you've put for everyone and sharing your story, your journey, and these valuable tools. Thank you,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for joining us.
I appreciate it. It was wonderful. Thank you.